child support is the right of the child. So the court has to kind of look around and grab this guy by the shirt collar and dad by the shirt collar and say, all right, like, who's going to pay for this? And that's often how it works, right?
I'm Amanda Silver.
And I'm Alex Howard.
And this is Dirty Laundry.
So we are introducing a real special treat for all of our listeners.
A new segment of Dirty Laundry.
Called
Ask Mike.
Ask Mike.
Are you okay with that, Michael?
I know, we're so informal.
It can be edited later, whatever you want.
Definitely
Okay.
can.
I'm here. That's all that matters.
Okay. All that matters is he's here, and he's here to answer all of your family law questions.
He is our in-house counsel here at Dirty Laundry. We come to him with all of ours and yours pressing legal issues. He is one of the smartest young minds that we have seen as of late. And we are lucky to have him.
I think you said that there were two minds you looked at. I'm one of them. So that's complimentary. Thank you.
You made the cut.
Yeah.
This is what happens when I improv.
Yeah.
I love watching her improv because it's always
Sometimes the wheel doesn't turn as quickly as the mouth goes, and so it's extra special discovery for all of us.
So Mike, why don't you introduce yourself? You've been on our podcast before, so you're no stranger to Dirty Laundry. Why don't you introduce, who you are, what you do?
Well, what I do is I practice criminal and family law here in Toronto and surrounding parts of the GTA. Last year, I left a long-standing position with the government as a senior Crown attorney to go out on my own, open up my own private practice. Here I am a year and change later, and my family practice is growing. A lot of interesting experiences thus far, and it's certainly a complicated area of the law in many respects, but a lot of the decisions are fairly simple that you have to make, or at least should be, with the right guidance and frame of mind. And folks, any lawyer that goes on a show like this is more than happy to lend, I would hope, insight or examples to inform kind of possibilities in family law or any area of law. You have to be aware, though, that what I am not doing and what I will never do, and no lawyer would, is give formal legal advice or even informal legal advice to any situation that you're going through. That's not the intention here. I'm simply illustrating basic legal concepts, possible ways to deal with them, but above all else, it is always recommended that you seek independent legal advice for any family law issue, hopefully before getting involved in family law proceedings and finding the right lawyer that you can work with, because it is a relationship. Make no mistake. Once you're going down this road, it is critical to have trust, chemistry, and overall to believe that the person you retain is going to have your back. So do that. Don't just take what I said as being the gospel. Do your own research, speak to a lawyer, and I hope it works out for you because it's definitely a challenging time in everyone's life. Prior to getting into law, in my 20s, I worked in the business side of entertainment. Prior to that, I had a very brief but successful at times career as an actor. You can go and, I don't know, there's some YouTube clips.
We Googled. You were on Smallville. Yeah. We know.
White Chicks, if you YouTube.
You were on White Chicks.
I forgot about that.
So I had a line in White Chicks.
What was your line? Come on.
It's a volleyball commercial within the movie for a medication of some kind. And I come on, and the lead actor is Brittany Daniel. So I come on as this guy on the volleyball court that's, hey, want to come play with me? And we walk off court. The joke is it's a commercial for herpes medication called Valtrex. And so she whispers to the camera, well, I won't tell if you won't. So if you YouTube, I'm not saying do this. I don't brag about this. But it is on YouTube, White Chicks herpes commercial. You could see a very young Mike Korstein and probably figure out quickly why I gave up acting and decided to go back to school and go to law school.
I love it.
Because that was 20 some odd years ago, but here I am.
Here
We
you
all
are.
have a story to tell of how we got here.
And he's here today to talk to us about social media.
Yes.
And sort of the law around that, what that looks like from a legal standpoint, because we get this question all the time. I've written into some of my MOUs around, you know, where and when and how can parents be posting about either each other, like i.e. changing your Facebook status to single instead of married, but more importantly around the kids as well.
Yeah.
And
It's
what
the
that
fine
looks
line.
like. Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're two separate issues. Is you know what an individual is posting about their partner and their divorce and all of that, what's going on, and also the kids aspect who are minors. And I think those are two separate issues.
So let's ask Mike.
Yeah.
So, look, there are many potential problems with social media in the family law context. So that is kind of something we'll delve into a little bit. Obviously, what you've talked about it, and one of the very first things it's prominently in my agreements that I enter into with my clients is you will not engage in social media posting about this process, your file, the other party. Why? Because it distracts from what we're trying to do at best. And at worst, it can completely undermine credibility or your arguments that you're trying to make. And there's many ways that can sort of manifest itself.
It can just be so inflammatory when you're already trying to keep things as mellow as possible.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, look, I have a client who it's not even about direct slandering. There's no Facebook posts or tweets about it. But what this person, it's the new partner, and they were married a long time. But as with all new relationships, this new partner's head over heels for my client's ex and posting this nauseating, like, you know, as if they're the first people that ever discovered love. You know, we never knew what this was like, you know, and it's
we
like,
all have that friend.
so that,
Throw up.
and it's like,
Other
come on,
half,
like
my
the,
forever.
you know, the ex had love. It didn't go the way, but they had kids together. They had a lot of good years. I was there for them.
Right.
They loved each other. It was, you know, so cool your jets. I know you're like 3 divorces in and think you've discovered the magic to love, but you know, I think that's an example where you have to often talk your clients down at times because it can be it's gaslighting them and making them feel angry about what's going on. But you can't allow that to devolve into taking shots at someone on their Facebook wall or DMs or whatever, because all of that is being screenshotted. And what I always tell people is, look, and lawyers live by this advice as well. Don't ever put something in an email or on the internet that in the wildest scenario you would have to explain in a court proceeding.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't let it come back to hurt you. I know we all want to, in the heat of the moment, express our feelings on a particular polarizing topic and try to convince people on the internet that they're wrong and we're right, which never happens. But you got to keep it kind of controlled. So that's the risk, right?
Right.
In general.
It will show up in a courtroom as evidence.
Yeah, and not even the negative stuff. Like, I'll give you a practical example. One of my clients was ushered to court over a concern about the parenting time, and the ex was trying to paint him and his family as evil and can't be with the children and da-da-da-da-da. And leaving aside that there was no evidence put forth and the motion was denied, and my client did not suffer a disruption to his parenting time. What sunk her in large part was she's casting all these aspersions and slandering the family of my client. And at the same time, her Facebook history shows all this glowing, you know, these photos and love. I love you, ex-mother-in-law that I now say is the worst person in the world. And you know, like, so the judge looks at her like, lady, like, are you nuts? Like, These people didn't go from amazing to evil.
Yeah, just because you decided to get a divorce,
Right.
they didn't change their whole personal, persona or whatever.
Yeah, again,
personality.
The credibility of the person gets called into question.
Yeah, like you are taking it, especially where you're taking an extreme position, going against what's in the best interests of your children and all the established law, which kind of guards against parents being deprived of meaningful time with their children. You want to get a court to side with you on that, you better come strong and not have stuff like that hanging in the balance. It's low-hanging fruit to knock those down.
It's not just the bad posts and disparaging your ex or their family. It's in comparison.
Contrast.
It's the contrast of what you're saying, in court or through lawyers compared to what you've posted for the past 10, 15 years on your Facebook.
The
Like
internet,
historical.
Right.
it goes back a long way, our Facebook posts to when we were teenagers and in our 20s, God forbid. I mean, I don't have
Don't
a
look
Facebook account.
You have the white chicks herpes commercial. I mean,
That is something.
We're all going to be Googling that tonight.
That is something. Hopefully they never find the student films I did for ACTRA credit or the independent films to, but
Independent
I have
films.
so many.
leaving that
independent
aside,
films.
everyone has their shame. Look, the social media thing, there's a lot we wouldn't want somebody going back and looking at because we all grow, we all mature, we get better. What once upon a time was a funny Halloween costume for me and my friends wouldn't be by today's standards.
Right.
That doesn't mean we're bad people, but we should leave the past in the past and not. But where it's all out there for us, it can be manipulated. And suddenly your ex is trying to misrepresent something from a picture of you holding 2 beers in your hand. Suddenly you're an alcoholic. But
Yes.
these are the things that people devolve into, and you have to be careful about that.
I've even had conversations with people who were afraid to post pictures while they're going through their divorce of them drinking with friends because it can be screenshotted. It could be one night
Taken
where
out
you're
of
out having
context.
champagne. It can be screenshotted and made to look and spun that this person has an alcohol
Yeah.
problem.
Suddenly you drove to the bar that night.
Yes.
Your kids were at home with a sitter
Yes.
from Craigslist that you
Right.
didn't meet. Like
The narrative
everything.
just
Yeah.
expands from that one post.
Yeah.
It's almost like what we used to see with like celebs when it's like, oh, they're out doing this and they're caught in their worst moments and then the tale is spun to be a completely different thing. We're essentially all now celebs with our own cameras and our own
Right.
platforms. And so what are you putting on that platform? It's no longer just for that, those infamous kind of
Stars, they're just like us.
exactly.
I read Us Weekly.
Oh yeah, I used to love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when you are going through litigation, I think there's a warning that needs to go out to people to be very careful about what you post.
Right. And so again, it's standard. My clients are all cautioned. I want private profiles. I don't want
That's in your contract, like for them to
a
hire
social
you.
media clause is in my
Okay.
standard family law retainer
Oh,
to
love that.
explain that I don't want this social media to come into our case.
Yeah.
What's in the past is in the past. Like
Sure.
if your ex, you still follow each other maybe because you have the kids and you can't prevent someone from going back and looking at old Instagram posts and whatever.
Unless you block them.
Well, that's something you
Right?
to each his
Some
own.
people do.
If you do, you don't, whatever.
Right.
But at a minimum, I don't want new information coming out there that sandbags me as I'm trying to represent you and advance your position to the best of my ability. I've got to be in the loop and we've got to be on the same page. And that's really what it undermines if you're out there fighting battles on the internet, unbeknownst to me. It's a trust thing and a maturity thing as well.
Right.
You're going to have your bad days. I get it. We all do. But big picture, you can't jeopardize what we're working towards, right?
Okay. So that's almost like you're not breaking the law. You're just sort of setting yourself up for success by staying off or keeping things on the DL.
Why hand
You're
something
personally.
to the other side to do something with? Like,
But
why?
I want to know about like the law. So
Okay.
outside of slander, like is there anything that someone could go out? What if they are posting the truth? You were double fisting beer at this, time, and you did hire a Craigslist nanny. Like, what if that's accurate? What is there any legal recourse?
Ask yourself this question. Legal recourse for who? Like if it's true and I just don't like that they're posting it. Look, if I have a problem with alcohol or I have parenting issues or I'm hoping as the client that I'm working with my lawyer to address that, confront it when it's alleged, and represent the truth of what it actually is. Nobody's perfect. You can have gone through having had an addiction. You can have had needed
2 beer, not an addiction make.
Right, but again,
you're posting it on socials, it gets turned into something by the other lawyer.
But your question presupposes it's true, that it is a real
problem. It's true
that
you're having 2 beer at the same time, not that you have an addiction. I'm just saying that's like if based solely on one picture, if it's factually accurate that you were holding 2 drinks at the same time, and someone is trying to then make a case.
Look, I can only say how I would handle something like that. And if my client came to me and said, look, I want you to put into our court filings that this man or this woman is an alcoholic. Look at this picture. I'd be like, personally speaking, again, maybe it's my prosecutor background cross-examining witnesses for a living for many years. I would press and I would want more details, and I would think ahead to, well, wait a minute, I know this sounds great. You're throwing a good shot in the other direction, but when it comes back with no proof, and how does it reflect on you that, you have children, and your response to addressing an issue that their father may or may not have or their mother may not have is to wage war on Facebook and out them. That's harmful to your family. And that's where I would say, who am I working with here? Is this person a lunatic? Because the next thing they're going to do is air their dirty laundry about something else. And again, but at the end, judges like to, if we even get to the end and it goes all the way, a large part of the ultimate decision rests on credibility and how the parties have behaved. Of course, the legal arguments are prevalent and they're the main thing. But in terms of how you believe the facts that shape the legal issues, that's how they arrive at their decisions. So my client will be the one that has deflected or just ignored nonsense like that. And the other person's client will have been the one inflaming with social media posts and trying to sandbag the father and drag him through the mud. That's not going to play in the end. And if it's really a problem, then I would expect the lawyer to reach out to me to say, this is my client's concern. Here's incidents that have happened. Here are weird, rambling, angry text messages she's been getting. And if I look again, the lawyer relationship is important too. If I trust the other side and I know them to have integrity and they're not just going to come to me to gaslight my client, I might believe that my client has an issue, and I would then work with them to address it. There's no shame in it, but the shame is in denial or escalating something that could be managed and could be positioned properly to the court and not affect you.
I think there's 2 issues though. Like there's the issue of someone posting pictures of their own lifestyle and that being used against them with holding the 2 beers. But then the other issue, which is what I think you were talking about, which is posting information about the other person, about their ongoing court case. So if that's happening, can there be some legal recourse to send like a cease and desist? You're mentioning my name, or maybe you're not even mentioning my name. Everyone knows I'm your ex. And you're talking about, he won't pay child support, or who knows what people put on their socials.
So the law, we do have free speech, freedom of expression as a general rule. Where you get into trouble are things like libel, slander, defamation, whatever. And we always throw those terms around like it's so easy to just sue someone for something they said that we don't like. Or hate speech, obviously. Hate speech isn't even just saying something racist or rude. It has to be something that crosses the level of inciting some level of hatred or advocating for violence against someone else. We see a lot of that being argued over on social media now.
Yes.
So slander, same idea. If my husband or my ex is a deadbeat, doesn't pay child support, and I want all his friends to know that he's a deadbeat and doesn't pay child support, and he goes out with you to the strip clubs and drops all this money, and you should know that while he's playing men's league hockey and golf, like, all the time, and his kids don't have food, that's what I want all of you to know. He's a scumbag. If that's true, or you reasonably believe it to be true, it might not attract any legal recourse. You won't win any favors.
Right.
That's not the right way to handle a serious family issue. That I always say, like, get the lawyers involved or try to work it out. Show that you're going to go high rather than go low.
Yeah.
But legally speaking, unless you know that the person is actually paying their fair share of child support, and you email their boss, or you tag on LinkedIn his corporate headquarters, this guy's a piece of garbage. My kids are starving and he won't pay me any support. Then you could be in some real trouble, because for defamation and libel and slander, generally speaking, if there's a loss that can be attributed, or a risk of harm to a reputation or financial aspect to the comments that were knowingly false and designed to injure, you could end up in a court.
And
it looks
from your family law issues.
Yeah,
Right?
you
Which,
best be sure that
it
that's
can hurt your family law
Case as well.
case as well, because your credibility then gets called into question.
Yeah, imagine you're the judge at the end, and the lawyer has to. It's a big ask. You've got two competing ends of this spectrum: what they said and what they said. Here's the evidence. Some of it works for us, some of it doesn't. Some of it works for them, some of it doesn't. But on the one side is this person who's been behaving like an animal and trying to ruin the career of the person they're in this family court proceeding, as if that's going to help. You want the money from this person. You need to. That's the tree that you need to keep alive here. So why are you going to chop it down just because you can't control your emotions,
just
or
out
you
of
don't?
spite.
And that I never understand that. It's something that would literally cause me to remove myself as someone's
It's good
client.
to know. I like to know that people are and kind of ethical, because again, in this court battle or litigious battle, it's easy to want to go for the jugular, but we got to keep it clean.
Yeah, lawyers work hard. We're all human as well. We have our own reputations. I don't love going into court and having, my butt handed to me,
Right.
because I'm making bad arguments that I'm sort of trying to make work for my client. And we all have to do that sometimes. I mean, ethical arguments and things that are founded on what we believe to be the facts are sometimes an uphill battle legally, but you can still make them in good faith. But I'm certainly not going to want to go down that road with somebody who's undermining all of that work, as I say, by behaving in that manner where they're trying to torch the other side. And I'm getting letters from the other lawyers telling me how unacceptable this behavior is, and they're right. I'm not a babysitter. I don't want to be going back and forth reprimanding my clients all the time and cautioning them about bad behavior. So it detracts from all my other clients and the work that I have to do.
Your reputation, yeah.
Well, my reputation suffers if I condone it or I don't work to get around it properly, right?
Or if you don't know about it. Like, do you ever have a situation where you're in court and you don't know that your client is doing this shit on the side, and then it gets handed to you by the other side?
Well,
by the way, they were in, Costa Rica, but they're saying they can't pay child support.
So that wouldn't realistically happen in a court proceeding.
Right.
To give disclosure of
you
evidence,
file your materials. You might find out 3 or 4 days before,
Right.
Let's say before a motion where they put it in their materials, and you're like, what are these screenshots? I thought you told me that I saw everything. You have this other burner account, obviously, that I didn't know. So yes.
Finsta.
Well,
so much effort just to like bash your
Don't
ex
hide stuff from your
alive.
own lawyer.
never do that.
Never do that. You're there to help, right?
We can work with a lot.
a lot.
If
Don't
it's above
hide
board.
stuff from your own lawyer.
No.
You asked, we answered.
Introducing the Dirty Laundry community.
An online support group for people who are going through divorce, have gone through divorce, are considering divorce, or just have divorce-related questions. We are here to offer our support and build a divorce community.
This is an opportunity for you to not only pick our brains, but also connect with others on a similar path. The monthly membership gives you access to 2 online group meetings per month, hosted by us, as well as resources and access to our 24/7 chat group.
But wait, there's more. The first 20 people to sign up get a free 30-minute private call with either of us.
So for more information or to sign up for our membership group, click on the link in our Instagram bio or this episode's show notes.
Looking forward to seeing you in the new year.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the kids then.
Kid.
How does that factor in, again, legally? Because we have our brilliant legal mind here. What if I'm posting...
When do I meet him? Or her?
He's at 3 o'clock.
What if someone is posting stuff about the kids? So they don't have the ex's permission, let's say, or is that even needed? Do you have to have both parents sign off to be putting up stuff about your children?
As a general rule, no. I mean,
We're doing it all the time.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look, again, bound by the same laws, obviously appropriate content of your children in a public on the internet. Again, it's not my cup of tea. I'm of the kind of post some maybe the odd thing, nice family moments like a Halloween, whatever, every day. You know, I know a lot of people are. I don't post pictures of my kids all the time. My wife barely ever does. But generally speaking, unless it's some agreement that you're violating, there's nothing wrong with putting things on Instagram or Facebook about your children's baseball or hockey games or dance recitals, things like that. But I would say there are many parents who don't like that. And if you know the other side is that it was always your practice during marriage to not do that type of thing.
Right.
Suddenly you're going through separation and you're blowing up social media with your kids. I mean, you have to be aware that there might not be anything legally wrong with that, but you are causing a rift and creating another issue that you're going to have to deal with. And it's disrespectful. That's what I would say. It's the other side's children too. And you should at least have that understanding of whether or not the other side, because there are risks and there's a good reason a lot of people don't like pictures of our kids out there.
Yeah.
What if during the relationship or the marriage, that was fine? Like posting pictures of the kids was something that you both did. And then separation happens. And then one side is saying, well, actually, no, I don't want the kids on socials.
Look,
It's a control thing or it's whatever.
There's no law that says a parent can't post photographs of their children, again, bound by regular laws of what's appropriate. But that's something that has to be worked out.
So are you seeing that in agreements then?
Me, no. I mean, I'm not putting that in any of my agreements. I haven't had it requested by anyone yet. But I can understand how that would happen. Certainly. There's people who value their privacy more. Certainly.
I had a file where one of the parties had already repartnered and their partner was very much, let's say, an influencer,
right,
quote unquote, and putting everything. So then now this new person, this third party, is posting about this person's children.
We're not their kids.
Who's not their kids.
Yeah, that can be very sensitive.
Yeah.
And this is along the lines of what I gave that example earlier about, the new partner of a client who's suddenly, making it sound like they discovered love.
Right.
You definitely, I would, again, I can't tell the people what not to do in every situation, and my clients have a right to live their lives. But I would say definitely tone it down and be sensitive to the children and the other side, because a lot of it is manipulative. It's the other party wanting to show their friends and validate their new relationship, and who are you proving that to? Just keep it cool and be nice and develop the relationship offline. We don't all need to see how great of a step parent you're becoming.
But I do wonder if they are using, I mean, it wasn't in this particular instance, but, potentially other folks that are trying to use that to demonstrate how involved they are in those kids' lives. Maybe if there is something about, some parenting time, debates, or, trying to claw back some parenting time.
If that is an issue and there's a valid reason for that type of need to prove that you're a part of the children's lives, it could assist. But again, courts are not born yesterday. They know what manipulative photos look like that are, like, let's get everyone together for a family photo. But that was like on your third date.
Right.
And it says like family on the top of the picture. Like, we're not, come on. Yeah. Seriously.
That also brings me to the idea of like a step parent who's acted as a parent for 10 years, all over socials, family of the year. These are my kids, love them like my own, all those things. And then they separate. And then there's requests for support. So that can also come back to bite you, right?
Right. So the child support is the right of the child. That's sometimes a little bit lost, right? Like the spouse or the parent claiming it on behalf of the child, certainly in most cases. But the court looks at it from the point of view of what does this child need to be supported? Who is in the best position to do that? Where the biological parent is not available, or the biological father in most cases not available, but there's this nice shiny stepfather that was in the picture for 12 years through ages 5 to 17 and always paid for this and always did that. It's the expression, or the legal term is loco parentis, standing in the place of a parent. And if that is established, it's basically the same as being a parent for the purposes of child support. The court will undertake an analysis of what earnings are and what you contribute to other areas of the relationship and what would be appropriate or necessary for that child. So in most cases, or in many cases at least, where it's a shorter relationship but an intense one, a 5-year, not even a second marriage, but maybe, the transitional relationship from a marriage to the new guy in town who's fun and great for 5 years, but then that fizzles out, but then there's nobody. And you have a 12-year-old kid who needs financial support. The court doesn't want to be, the state, the government doesn't pay for that stuff.
Right.
So the court has to kind of look around and grab this guy by the shirt collar and dad by the shirt collar and say, all right, like, who's going to pay for this?
Yeah,
and that's often how it works, right?
And in those instances, would they look to an online profile to gather?
It's all evidence for or against, right? It can be. And if it's genuine, it can be helpful evidence, like a lot of things. But you also, where the children are old enough, they will become part of proceedings that have potential conflicts in them like this. The Office of the Children's Lawyer can get involved in many different areas. They can do a report called a Voice of the Child report from the child's perspective about what their impressions are about the relationships. And they will ask, what was it like with, dad number 2, and what did you spend time alone together, and what was that experience like, and to try to gauge whether or not that's, from the child's perspective, someone who did act like a parent, right? And there's objective other evidence as well. If you vacation together, if you live together, if you were paying down the house for the family as well as you lived there for 5 years, there's a lot that goes into that analysis.
It's just one piece of the puzzle, I guess.
Yeah, but it all helps, right?
Or hinders.
Well, if you're the guy trying to ditch the little brat, then I'd say it can hinder you to be
all those posts on Instagram,
all those Leaf game, best stepdad, you might want to delete that,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the world we live in, right? People are very cavalier with what they're posting online, and there is some recourse to it.
Right.
So
Even if you're not going through a divorce, but you're in a relationship, you still have to be cautious of what you post because it can be used against you down the road.
Yeah. I mean, at least an OnlyFans or something. You've got subscription wall. So
Does that ever come up in court? Someone's OnlyFans profile?
no, most of my clients don't mind that I have an OnlyFans. No, is that what you're asking? No? Okay.
We wanted to know about yours, but also your clients.
Yeah. There will not be one. Let's put it that way. But look, there are people get into relationships from all walks of life, all employment backgrounds. There's no right or wrong. And there's certainly nothing illegal, or you're not entitled to less if you're a sex worker or something to that effect. Obviously, there's you can't be naive, and you have to appreciate that for children and in relationships where parents are involved in any business that's not traditional, there could be sensitivity issues, but that doesn't. Look, we got to do what we got to do to make a living here, folks. I mean, and it's not always pretty. Let's be realistic.
Right now.
It's like we talked about cohabiting through divorce or separation. The costs of living are astronomical. Your kids want to go to a day camp. You want to take, God forbid, one little vacation a year, even just pay for your car. That's an entire salary for most families. So I don't know. We certainly can't judge anybody doing anything.
You end up on Feet Finder. Like, you got to do what you got to do.
You definitely do.
But really, your best advice is keep it quiet, at least during your divorce. Stay offline as much as possible.
That's certainly that's certainly the best practice. And again, we have our escapes, and we do want to live our lives and do all of that. And you're certainly entitled. You just should be cognizant of the other players and the other feelings that are impacted. And as well, part of the reason for wanting privacy, not everyone wants pictures of, well, where's the mom in that photo, or the dad? And wait a minute, they must be going through something, because I don't see the dad in any of those vacation photos.
The first indicator of it often is and then all of a sudden your mom or dad are not in the pictures, and dad's on a beach with just the kids.
Lots of requests from new friends suddenly pour in. Oh, like, are you single?
Hot Girl 617 is just
yeah. So
yeah, I always advise people to have a friend. So if you want to, let's say, phone your ex or drunk dial, it's no, have a go-to stand-in for that call. Maybe same thing for posts. Yeah, I want to post this angry whatever. Tell me not to. Have somebody you could trust that go to.
Or a divorce coach or your mediator. You could.
Sure.
Should I post this? I do have a question, though, also about kids and their social media, because often you get two different types of parenting styles when people are separated and divorced. Maybe you have one parent who's like, sure, they can have a TikTok account, no problem. And the other parent's like, hell no, I don't want my kid on TikTok. So what happens then? Is there a legal precedent for something like that?
Well, it's the same thing. You can't take someone to court over, I don't want my child to have an Instagram account.
Well, technically, it depends on the age, right? Because isn't there an age when you can join some of these platforms?
Sure. That's the terms of service. They'll get blocked eventually. TikTok deletes your account if they discover that you're under a certain age or posting inappropriate conduct.
Yeah, but that could be illegal
content.
What if they want to have a YouTube channel? What if your child is 10 years old and loves, I don't know, Pokemon or whatever the hell they're into, and they want to have a YouTube channel?
All of this falls under the category of, you really need to work this out amongst yourselves. Yeah. You can certainly have your lawyers argue with each other over what's appropriate, what's not. If it's in the context of, look, Timmy has a YouTube channel it looks like he's posting 5 videos a day. The teacher calls, says he's not going to school. He's getting bad grades. Right. We have to step in and say, you need to do a better job, or there has to be an or. Right? You're not going to take your ex to court to try to shut down a YouTube channel on its own or an Instagram account. There's no basis to do that at law. Sure, Instagram and YouTube have their own terms of service and all that, but we're not in the business of litigating that. However, if there's a correlation to a family law concern stemming from internet use or things that are reflecting on a lack of parenting that's causing potential harm to the child. That's where the cause and the effect might be to go to court over parenting time in an extreme situation where you need to restrict the other parent's access because they're not paying any attention to what the child is doing online, especially where it's not age appropriate.
Right.
And you'll see that where, how come my 7-year-old asked me about X and they saw something very inappropriate? Oh, well, that's because they live now with the ex and his new partner, and there's a 14-year-old son in the house who's showing porn to my 7-year-old.
Yeah. Right.
Again, you would be stepping in there for a reason, not directly related to the internet itself, but the correlating problem from it.
Got it. Brilliant.
Right? But get on the same page.
Right.
And you'd hope most people can at least find common ground in what's appropriate for their children, assuming, again, the problem is always, well, that's not true. Like that, you're planting that in the kid's head. It was a swimsuit commercial, big whoop.
Right. Like sometimes it's hard to figure out what they saw or where the source was. Because
correct.
Kids go to school and their friends maybe have a device and show them things. So it's hard to pinpoint where the source of that, maybe inappropriate information has come from.
Yeah. Children, teenagers 30 years ago to see inappropriate content had to move mountains. Right. Someone had to strike gold and discover a father's collection in the neighborhood under the bed on top of the dresser, and the word spread, and suddenly everyone wanted to see the Playboy collection or whatever, or scrambled pay-per-views, I've heard there were pathetic teenagers that tried to watch all that stuff.
I wouldn't know anything about this.
But it's so accessible. Any kid with a smartphone has access to very, unfortunately, very graphic and intense content that you can't oversee. So we have to be wary of that and be real about it.
And I think that's where you're right. Take the law out of it and just have a conversation with your co-parent and say, hey, remember when we decided to have children? We had a strategy for how we wanted to handle these types of issues. One has come up. Let's decide and let's deal with it together.
And, yeah. And you can have lawyers assist you in that too. But yeah, like a lot of things in family law, if people were capable of calming
do you have to go to the lawyers right away to send a legal letter, or just maybe have a conversation? Like, I'm just bringing this to your attention. Maybe that's the sort of the softer approach before you go with the big guns, which is
that's always recommended if you're on speaking terms, of course. And I have clients where my client is willing to be the parent that can text and just say, hey, what time should I pick up the kids today? Oh, can we switch days this week? I got to work late and whatever. Some other sides are happy to be, mature about it. Some are not. They insist on, paying a lawyer to write me an email or a letter about a pickup time or maybe a bill that accidentally didn't get paid for $50, but the letter costs $300. And I'm like, okay, why can't you just discuss this? I don't get it. There's no reason.
Well, what do we always say? Love your kids more than you hate your ex. Focus on the kids.
And don't post stupid shit.
Don't post stupid
social
shit.
Media.
That's good words to live by.
Stupid shit.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming back and giving us your words of wisdom. And if you want to work with Mike formally, we will have all of his information in our show notes.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver, produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.